Hi everyone, Jonathan Wick-Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of this new Lana Del Rey album, Did You Know That There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Blvd? This is the newest full-length LP from singer and songwriter Miss Lana Del Rey, bringing us her lengthiest title on this album as well as her lengthiest runtime at 77 minutes. And I'll say this, Lana may not be one of my favorite artists, period, but she has been one of the most frequently reviewed on this channel, cause there's only a few artists I can say I've covered for like the 8th time in album reviews alone. And at least for me in Lana's catalog, there's been some highs, but a lot of lows up until this point too. But the progression has mostly all been uphill, as I think Lana's chops and sensibilities as a singer and a songwriter have gotten better over the years. Her sense of adventure as an artist has increased too. Not only that, but I think she's done a great job of coming into her own, becoming more self-aware, portraying herself in a more flattering, compelling, and authentic light, and actually embodying the classic Americana aesthetics that at one point in her career came across way more tacky. Creatively, I think she really hit a peak with the record Norman fucking Rockwell, as many people do. I think the following Chemtrails Over the Country Club was mostly pleasurable as well, but something did feel slightly off with her last full-length LP, Blue Banisters. While there was some likable content and songwriting on that one, the performances and song structures were pretty blemished and drawn out. I know historically Lana hasn't been the strongest singer or anything like that, but up until this point it seemed like she was making a genuine effort to just kind of keep her vocals and instrumentation more on point and interesting. Which is why I say Ocean Blvd is actually a very nice bounce back, because I think she's hit another high on this one, even if it does take some fans a bit to realize, because this album is a very dense, personal, and I would say demanding release from Lana. The production here and there may be a little too washed out, yes, but it's mostly tasteful, intimate, and well-balanced, with plenty of strings and pianos, some guitar too. It may not be as groomed and grand or densely arranged as NFR was, which as a result of that record may remain to be like the fan favorite just because of how big it is. But there's a lot of power on Ocean Blvd too. I would argue more power, but soft power. There's an intimacy to this record. It's more organic, it's more open. Much in the same way Blue Banisters was, but this time around the execution is so much better. It's more primped. Take what sounds like a super raw and one-take vocal and piano performance on the song Kintsugi as an example. Another thing that feels like a familiar carryover from Blue Banisters is that in the finer details of that record, Lana stowed away so many personal details about her life, about her family, and she revisits a lot of those themes once again on Ocean Blvd, but this time in a much more overt way, which is clear from the opening track, The Grants, which is titled after her family name. The music has this gorgeous, hopeful angle to it with a gospel twist, and lyrically features nods to her grandmother, her sister's baby. She says on the track, "I'm doing this for us, our family line." She makes reference to her pastor on the track too, so I guess in a way on this record she's finding God a little bit, which is also obvious from the Judah Smith interlude on this thing, which is a weird moment on the record. I should probably get out of the way now. It's essentially 4 minutes of this social media megachurch leader giving a sermon, talking about wanting and valuing and caring about the things in front of you, be they your loved ones, family, your spouse, also showing wonder in the face of God's creations and planet Earth. It's very passionate, very convincing. There's almost a theater of the mind element to it too, where it sounds like this guy is at a distance, like you're hearing him from the furthest back pew in the church. Meanwhile, this sermon is set to these winding piano passages and what sounds like Lana or some woman right next to me kind of politely laughing in support of a lot of the things the pastor is saying, kind of saying, yeah, and just affirming what she's hearing. In one breath, the track seems like it's trying to be this moment of deep reflection, but in another, it feels like I'm experiencing a fever dream or a nightmare. Listening to this guy blow hot air over cosmic glory as he's currently being sued by his church's employees for making tithing compulsory. Sounds like hell on earth to me. Not to totally discount the track though, because I do think it adds to the overall lore of this record, because a lot of the narratives on these songs frame Lana as a woman who's kind of caught between her sexual desires and her dark side, but also this wish to be a proper, beautiful, respectable, traditional woman. I also think it says something that this interlude comes right after A&W, or American Whore, which was a lead track to this record. Let's talk about it. This song is very much about Lana's unending attraction to very toxic and surface level relationships, which has long been a central focus in many of her tracks and hits. But I think this example over here is one of the most cutting, as Lana kind of tortures herself over how self-aware of this problem she is, going as far as to say she's looking like a side piece at 33, even as a successful singer. There are deeper lyrics on the track that explore things like rape culture, as well as a loss of innocence in youth, which I think is also a pretty central theme of Candy Necklace. But back to A&W, because there's a really creative instrumental switch up toward the back end of the track too that feels like a totally different song and interlude itself, where suddenly some synths and beats are introduced, and Lana's attempts in the past at kind of mixing more organic and synthetic instrumentation, I personally think have not gone super well, but I think it truly clicks in this instance, especially since it adds to the track in such a conceptual way. Because with these rhythms, we get all these sexy grooves, we get the sounds of zippers zippering, a lot of surface level flirty bars and kind of baby voiced flows from Lana. She's delivering with this kind of sleepy, drunken, slurred inflection, going on about being used by this Jimmy character in a way. It feels like she's channeling a more former self and really depicting in the best way she can this American Whore experience that she's singing about in the chorus of A&W, making this, in my opinion, I'll use this word again, one of the most conceptual songs she's ever dropped. There are some interesting layers on the title track too, which comes across super smooth and melodic despite it being one of her most verbose singles yet. Against very gentle and moody pianos, she makes demands like open me up, tell me you like it, fuck me to death, love me until I love myself, which there's a deeper meaning to outside of this very overt cry for attention and affection, as Lana likens herself on this track to a now closed up like pedestrian tunnel underneath Ocean Boulevard that at one time was beloved and beautiful and used frequently, but at this time currently is forgotten and old and phased out. Is it possible on this song that Lana is not feeling her strongest in terms of, mainstream success or, just popularity? This also ties into reflections on the track about her feeling kind of isolated and in her own world. I don't know how Hotel California sounds like Florida, but point taken. Lana continues to build this elegant little character portrait on the song Sweet as well, which has one of the prettiest melodic runs on the entire record, but is hilariously contrasted with harsh lines like, I'm a different kind of woman, if you want some basic bitch, go to the Beverly Center and find her. But don't worry, Lana will wait for you to make up your mind. Until then, she'll be sweet and in bare feet, as she says, sounding like some kind of TikTok trad wife fantasy. Do you want children? Do you want to marry me? Do you want to run marathons? Which I guess isn't everyone's picture of an ideal life, but ultimately the track is an endearing ballad about building a life with another person. Toward the middle of the record, we begin to get these songs that feel more like lengthy internal monologues, like the previously mentioned Kintsugi, or the song Fingertips, where Lana sings through these very dense verses in a very open way, going on about the well-being of her brother and sister, asking does she have the mental stability to have her own child someday, because it's been said, so she says that she doesn't have that. She sings about the death of her uncle, potentially taking her own life too. There's this recurring theme on the track about taking 2 seconds to stop or pause or breathe or think, mostly before you have like a total and utter breakdown. It's not the strongest direction song-wise of all the tracks here, but it's still a compelling whirlwind of emotions. Really Lana in the raw, or sounding like she's slowly descending into madness, and sounding gripping in the process, or lack thereof. Deeper into the track list, the moody ballads with striking melodies continue, be that on Paris, Texas, which is a wonderful and wintry number in 3/4, or Let the Light In, which is an excellent acoustic cut featuring Father John Misty. I just continue to love their little musical connection that they have. And then there's also Grandfather, Please Stand on the Shoulders of My Father While He's Deep Sea Fishing, which very much sets the record straight on whether or not Lana has been kind of crafted or engineered as an artist, or is essentially a controlled industry plant, a puppet on strings, fake. To contrast this, she tries her best to paint a genuine self-portrait in her lyrics on this one, which, reading it, it's valid, and I understand that Lana is only human and rightfully upset about the ways in which she may have been painted in the past. But in fairness, her initial break into the limelight wasn't exactly a graceful one, and the themes and shtick of her early records was pretty toxic. Plus, she is also no stranger to putting her foot in her mouth. But with that being said, who she truly is, I think, comes through a lot better through her actions and through her music these days. And what she's saying on this track in terms of being an authentic artist is most definitely true, because I do not think there is a music industry focus group in existence that would come up with a 4-track run as unintentionally hilarious as Coachella, Woodstock in My Mind, God Bless America, and All the Beautiful Women in It. When the world was at war, we kept dancing, and beautiful people, beautiful problems. Having said that, though, I love the slowly intensifying instrumentation on this track. It's beautiful. Just mark this one down as another amazingly gorgeous moment on the record. Then from here, we get a pretty interesting finish on Ocean Blvd. There's Margaret featuring Jack Antonoff's Bleachers. Jack Antonoff, multi-instrumentalist, singer and songwriter. He is a producer too, and has worked with Lana in the past. Obviously was a main brain on her NFR record that so many people love. I love, you love. And Margaret is a pretty striking moment on the record for me, especially since it kind of feels like a closer, narratively and instrumentally, especially with those swelling vocals and strings and horns on the back end. The singing is really loose, almost like you're experiencing a cast and crew from some kind of musical production coming together to wrap up a great performance. There's also a funny reference to Antonoff's up-and-coming wedding date, as the song is about his fiancée. There are also some funny self-references on the track, especially toward the beginning as Lana is talking about writing the song and how she looks and how she's writing the track for a friend. The haunting refrains throughout the track of "When you know" are gorgeous and hard-hitting, tore me apart emotionally, especially since they really bring home this idea that when you are in love, you just don't really need to think about it or rationalize as to why, you just know. There's a fantastic verse from Jack on the track as well. But from here, from this point, after Margaret is over, the record almost feels like I'm experiencing a deluxe edition or something. Like Ocean Blvd is done and over and now just has like a few odds and ends to dish out. You have Fishtail, which is this really depressing and atmospheric ballad with some beats in the background and what sounds like some light auto-tune on Lana's voice. It's not super oppressive, but nonetheless sort of unflattering. Maybe my least favorite moment here, and then following this there's Peppers, which is kind of an attempt at a hip-hop inspired crossover. Lana has made tracks like these in the past. Specifically, this one feels like it could have almost been on her Paradise EP from back in the day, but the aesthetics and overall mood and attitude this time around are a lot weirder, and I kind of fuck with it, especially with Tommy Genesis's very sticky refrain on the track. Then there's Taco Truck XVB, which in the first leg comes across like it's some kind of Born to Die throwback. You have the beats, the shitty relationship narrative, some of the worst lyrics on the record too. Oh, that's why they call me Lenita. When I get down, I'm bonita. The track eventually phases into this instrumental passage and becomes like a demo version or alternate version of the song Venice Bitch, with a lot of synths and booming beats. It's okay. Not as great as the original single version fans are familiar with. It's almost like Lana purposefully regresses to a former self in the final moments of this LP, which, given that it is Lana Del Rey and she has a deep love of nostalgia, there could be 1,000,001 reasons and motivations as to why she's doing that. I guess it just would have been nice if she conceptualized it a bit more. That being said, the first 13 cuts on this thing are amazing. They're fantastic, in my opinion, nearly flawless. Lana's best work yet, her finest crop of songs, good production, good instrumentation. The lyrical content at the core of these tracks is personal, it is detailed, it is thoughtful, it is moving. It's also pretty low on cliches as far as the Lana average. Plus, these tracks didn't really need a whole lot of dolling up instrumentally, because how catchy and emotionally potent they are comes across regardless of how many strings are piled on top of them. I'll also add, this record is really the best application of features on any Lana record so far too. The Jon Batiste contributions are especially fire. I'll reiterate, the ending moments are a little odd and not entirely necessary, but I'm not mad they're here either. They do kind of add to the mythos of this record in a way, and Lana's progression as an artist over the years. I don't want to belabor my thoughts on this album any further. I think it's great. I genuinely think Lana did a wonderful job on this one. She knocked it out of the fucking park. I'm feeling a light to decent 9 on this thing. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like, please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head, there's another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Lana Del Rey, forever.